Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to debate about the Rudy Gobert trade that happened between the Jazz and the Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert has been known to be one of the best defensive players in the NBA for many years. However, the Timberwolves made a move that surprised many people around the NBA, including myself. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So, here it is. Who won the Rudy Gobert trade? Alright, so I'm going to go down the Rudy Gobert trade details first, then I'm going to give a reaction to this. Alright, so the trade had the Jazz receiving Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Balmero, Walker Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt. That's just the players. That's already a lot of players right there. That's 5 different players that they're giving up. But wait. They're going to also receive a 2023 first-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2026 pick swap, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2029 first-round pick. Now, every draft pick, except for the 2029 draft pick, is unprotected. So that means that the Jazz are going to get the Timberwolves draft picks for those years no matter what. And as for the 2029 first-round pick, that's going to be a top 5 protected pick. So that's pretty lightly protected. Well, the Timberwolves just received Rudy Gobert. Man, unwinding down those trade details, that already felt like a lot. All right, so let me try to do the math for you, make it really simple. So the Utah Jazz, they gave up 5 players in this deal. They received 5 first-round picks while losing out on 1 draft pick. So in other words, they gained 5 players and 4 draft picks, and 3 of those are unprotected first-round picks. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, they felt like they had to make a risky move to get Rudy Gobert so they could team him up with Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. And what I got to say to that is, that has to be one of the worst trades the Minnesota Timberwolves have ever pulled off in the history of their franchise, which is saying something. I mean, this is not the first time they've gotten scammed by Danny Ainge. All right, the Utah Jazz, they got scammed by Danny Ainge before. That was in the Kevin Garnett deal. All right, many years ago, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they traded Kevin Garnett for a piece of cookies. All right, that's basically what they did. And Danny Ainge, he got Kevin Garnett, formed up a big 3 with him, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, and they won that 2008 championship. So that's a little bit of history for you in the history of the NBA. Now let's talk about modern day times. Danny Ainge, he's now basically the lead executive for the Utah Jazz. And to see them pull off the trade that they did, this was a heist. This was one of the worst trades that anybody could have ever came up with. What was the Minnesota Timberwolves on? Were they on crack? Were they on weed? Were they on drugs? Did they drink too much the night before they did this deal? Because this is a horrible deal for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, Jesus, they gave up a package that you would expect a team to give up a package for Kevin Durant, for goodness sake. If they were willing to spend this much draft capital, trade away these many players as they did, they should have just spent it on a Kevin Durant or a Kyrie Irving. To spend all that on Rudy Gobert, what? I mean, Rudy Gobert, he's a good player, albeit he's an overplayed player, but he's a good player. But the fit for him on the Minnesota Timberwolves is horrible. It's not only horrible, it's horrendous. I mean, think about it. In the NBA, it's already hard enough to play one big man on the floor. Unless that big man is super skilled, then it's already hard to play him on the floor, or if he's a rim protector or something like that. Okay, and somebody could say, yeah, Rudy Gobert, he's a rim protector. Here's the thing, though. Karl-Anthony Towns, he's a center. He's solely a center player. Now he's going to be asked to play at the power forward position because Rudy Gobert cannot play any position outside of the center. Rudy Gobert, the only thing that he can do is block shots and dunk the ball and set screens. That's all he's good for. And although he's really good at those 3 things that I just told you guys, I mean, come on. How much value is he going to have? He's going to clog up the spacing on the floor for the Minnesota Timberwolves because Karl-Anthony Towns, he's not going to be a power forward. If you're a power forward, that means you have to be at the 3-point line. Now, look, Karl-Anthony Towns, he can knock down the 3, but you don't want him at the 3-point line. You want him in the post. You want him dominating in the paint. Now you got 2 big men clogging up the paint area, and then they got other players that are not great at shooting the ball. Kyle Anderson, not a great shooter. Anthony Edwards, I like the guy a lot. He's really athletic. I'm very high on him. I actually think the Timberwolves made the correct selection with the first pick that year, selecting Anthony Edwards. But still, that's not a way to construct an NBA team. And then you got D'Angelo Russell, a guy that the Minnesota Timberwolves, they seem interested in moving on. They still haven't been able to move on from that overpaid contract. I don't understand why the Minnesota Timberwolves did what they did. They killed all their depth. They killed all their youth. They sold the future. For what exactly? Look, Minnesota Timberwolves, this is why they're always a bad organization, because the Minnesota Timberwolves, they make deals that are just not good for franchise at all. This trade makes no sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves whatsoever. I don't even understand why they would make that kind of deal. I mean, look, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they finally had a good year. They finally got the 7th seed, finally won a play-in game. They even took the Grizzlies to 6 games. They could have won that series if they just had a little bit more bench pieces, or if they could just close a fourth quarter, for goodness sake. And they'll give up all that for Rudy Gobert. I mean, they're acting like Rudy Gobert is going to elevate them into the best team in the Western Conference kind of deal. This is a terrible deal for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't understand why anybody would even make that type of deal from the Minnesota Timberwolves side. How do they get better from this? They get a little better on defense? Maybe. But then Karl-Anthony Towns, he's not somebody that's supposed to be guarding out in the perimeter. Now he's going to have to do that because Rudy Gobert is going to be the rim protector. And although he's going to be a pretty good one, you now make Karl-Anthony Towns almost worse on the defensive end of the floor. And he's already not even that good on the defensive end of the floor anyways. And also, here's the thing as well. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they got zero depth now. They gave up all their depth. And a guy that I thought was pretty underrated for the Minnesota Timberwolves was Patrick Beverley. They gave him up in that deal. Patrick Beverley, now look, he's not going to be a guy that's going to put up numbers. He's not going to put up all-star type numbers. He's not going to give you big-time production. But what he does is give you the scrappy things, and he's an overachiever, and he's a guy that's a culture toner. He's a guy that sets culture into place. This is a guy that taught the Minnesota Timberwolves how to grind out victories, how to win games. I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they basically had their best or the second best season in the last 20 years, and now they're getting rid of that core for Rudy Gobert. They're acting like Rudy Gobert is going to take them to the number 1 or the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. No, they're not. I won't give you some teams off the top of my head that are better than the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. You got the Phoenix Suns with or without DeAndre Ayton. You got the Memphis Grizzlies. They're still better than the Minnesota Timberwolves. You then, of course, have the Golden State Warriors. Even though they lost some bench pieces on their championship team, they're still a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Dallas Mavericks, they're a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Utah Jazz, even in this deal, they're better than the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. And I'll get to the Jazz part a little bit later. But anyways, they're still a better team than the Timberwolves. And then, of course, you got the Denver Nuggets. They're going to get Jamal Murray back. They're a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you got the Los Angeles Clippers with the addition of John Wall. They're going to be a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a bright future, who are going to get Zion Williamson back from injury, they are a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just gave 8 teams that are better than the Minnesota Timberwolves right now as constructed. This future is not looking bright for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And whatever they were building up this year, man, it just went up into flames with this one deal. This one deal is going to set this franchise back for years. It might even be worse than the Brooklyn deal that they did with the Boston Celtics many years ago. And that's what Danny Ainge does. Danny Ainge, he does a great job tearing it down, only tearing down the current roster that he has, only to get a ridiculous amount of draft capital given to him, as well as players given to him that could actually help out a team. That's what Danny Ainge is great at. Danny Ainge, the trader, is back in place. He hasn't died from it, and he's still here, and he just scammed the Minnesota Timberwolves big time. So that was a terrible deal for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, let me actually talk about it from the Jazz deal. All right, so the Jazz, they get some interesting players. Now, like Leandro Balmero, I don't really got too much to say. Jared Vanderbilt, don't really got too much to say, although he's a nice bench piece. Now, you look at the rest of the trade. Malik Beasley, he's a scorer. He's going to help out Donovan Mitchell a little bit. Patrick Beverley, great deal for them. Patrick Beverley's never missed the playoffs in his career, and he's a scrappy guy. He's going to help out Donovan Mitchell on the defensive end of the floor. Then you got Walker Kessler. He's excellent on the defensive end of the floor, too. I know that he's really raw. I know that he's only a rookie, but he's going to help with the Utah Jazz. So they basically received a draft prospect from the 2022 NBA draft, which was something they did not have coming into the draft. So when you look at it from that perspective, really good what the Utah Jazz were able to do in terms of getting the players. So I like the players that they got in return for Rudy Gobert. That's pretty good in my mind. And then to add on the draft picks, I mean, they get all those unprotected first-round picks. They're going to be able to rebuild and retool around Donovan Mitchell. I know some people are going to say, well, if Donovan Mitchell doesn't want to be a part of this rebuild, well, if he doesn't want to be a part of this retool, I'll say this. If Donovan Mitchell doesn't want to be part of this rebuild and retool, I don't really know what I got to say to him, because this is already pretty good. Anytime somebody gives up 5 players and 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, any GM should take that, no matter what. I don't care if LeBron James is on your team and Rudy Gobert is his friend. If somebody's offering that deal, you got to take that 9 times, not 9 times, 100 times out of 100 times. You have to take that deal. You just have to, because Rudy Gobert is definitely not worth that value. I might have given Rudy Gobert maybe a couple of players and 2 first-round picks. Maybe I would have done that, but this is an overpay. This is the Kevin Durant package. Heck, they gave up more for Rudy Gobert than what the Lakers gave up for Anthony Davis. I mean, this is incredible. This is just incredible to see in my mind. So the Utah Jazz, they get quality players. They get a lot of draft capital in return. This is an excellent deal for them. And the Jazz, even with this trade, they're still a playoff team. They're still a playoff team for 2023. So I really like the deal they got. If this helps them out in the present, this helps them out in the future tremendously. And that's for the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is just pathetic. I don't really know what I got to say about that. If I had to give grades, it could not be. It's just two teams going in two different directions. Minnesota Timberwolves, they receive an F- in the deal. If I had to grade this test on a 0 to 100, I would grade this at a 0 because it's just that horrible. It's a terrible deal for the Minnesota Timberwolves, 10 times out of 10. I don't really know how to say it. I don't see any upside to this. They got worse as a team. The fit is terrible, and they basically killed their future. I really feel bad for Timberwolves fans because now they got to deal with this, so this is just horrible all the way around. As for the Utah Jazz, they get an A+ for me. They get future draft capital. They get tons of it. They also get help in the present. They're also going to get to build around Donovan Mitchell, or if Donovan Mitchell wants out, they can build up even more draft capital, and they can pull off the OKC and basically have a plethora of first-round draft picks for years to come. So I don't really see how the Jazz lose this deal in any way whatsoever. They get a mountain of assets in return. As for the Minnesota Timberwolves, yeah, I have no hope for that team for the next 5 to 10 years. I really have no hope for them. I mean, that organization, it's just messed up. It's just bad all the way around. That's what I got to say. So that is why the Jazz easily won the Rudy Gobert trade, as the Timberwolves got massively scammed in this trade deal by Danny Ainge. Now I want to go ahead and get to the shout-outs. So shout out number 1 goes to Jason OG Bohr. So he says tough for the Nets. All right, he's reacting to Kevin Durant feeling absolutely betrayed by Kyrie Irving. Yeah, I 1000% agree. You look at what the Nets did. They tried to build everything they could, only to see all of it blow up. It's just tough for them. So that's my shout-out number 1. Shout-out number 2 is Matthew Sampson. So he says KD and CP3. Then he has wild and fire emojis all over the place, because I suggested that KD could go to the Suns, and he just seems amazed by that. I also feel kind of amazed seeing that combination as well. So that's my shout-out number 2. Shout-out number 3 is Spencer Broad. So he says very good fit for him. He's reacting to John Wall signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. I like that fit for John Wall and the Clippers as well. That's a pretty good fit in my opinion. So that's my shout-out number 3. Shout-out number 4 is Ramsey TG23. So he says this definitely could help Trey. So he's reacting to the DeJounte Murray trade. I definitely agree. I think DeJounte Murray is a great backcourt partner for Trey Young. I think they're a match made in heaven. One guy can help out the other on defense. The other guy can help him out on offense. They're going to be really good at what they can do. So that's my shout out number 4. Shout out number 5 is All Things Gaming. He says way too much money, LOL. So he's reacting to Jalen Brunson signing with the New York Knicks. I 1000% agree with him. The Knicks gave him way too much money. That's a horrible contract that they gave him. Good player, but it's a horrible contract. So that's my shout out number 5. So those are my 5 shout-outs that I have to present to you guys. All right, so since it is July 4th, I wanted to show you guys a little something, aka America's birthday, aka Independence Day. I got a flag shirt on me. All right, so you can see the United States flag. Got to support our country. We're living in a great country. If it wasn't for this great country that we're living in, I wouldn't be making content for you guys about the stuff that I've been making. So I'm really appreciative of that. So I wanted to shout out to the people that really support Independence Day. All right, so if you haven't yet, please remember this. Go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Like the video and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in a future video. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.